Marguerite, my Aunt Marguerite loves things that measure time. She loves clocks and watches and calendars and sundials and children. And that's what we do, right? We take the children, we put them up against the door jamb, and we make sure that, it's better to use a matte paint there, not glossy. And you take a pencil or a Sharpie or whatever it is you use, and a yardstick, preferably a free one from the old school hardware store, and you measure the child, and there it is. And between her kitchen and the den is all of the measurements of my cousin Francine, my dear sweet cousin Francine, who suffers with HDD. Humor deficit disorder. She lives in Massachusetts. She has 2 PhDs. She likes being from the South. Yeah, you got that one right. She's a wonderful person. She teaches at Harvard. Her husband's a wood-fired potter, and she has a daughter named Drusilla. And Drusilla is a benefactor or suffers, depending on how you want to measure it, from generational revenge. And this is how that works. Now, Francine and I are the same age, so we're very close. And we grew up together, and I drove her crazy, kind of like a brat brother. And when we were coming through band, nobody had hope for me back in the day, so everybody thought, Andy, you be a drummer. And I became a drummer, which is a drag when you're a kid, because I visioned a red metal flake Ludwig drum set with 8 cymbals and you get a drum pad, and drum pad's a piece of wood with a piece of rubber and 2 1B sticks, and everybody's learning scales and stuff, and I'm going, Mary had a little lamb. And my cousin Francine wanted to be a trumpet player. Now remember, this is Covington, Georgia, deep south, small town Georgia. And Marguerite, at that time, did not want her daughter to be the first kid to play trumpet. Besides, she had watched a trumpet recital once. And if you think about it, the trumpet, or any brass instrument, is the only place where saliva dribbling on the floor is socially okay. She wasn't going to have, no daughter of mine's going to bring something in the house with a spit valve. Now, my kid played trumpet, and I remember going through his first trumpet book, and the spit valve, here's your euphemism for the day, it's now called the water key, which is kind of even worse. Anyway, so when Francine grew up and she had a little girl named Drusilla, she decided that Drusilla is going to play trumpet. She played jazz, she was playing Dizzy Gillespie, Harry James, Louis Armstrong, all to the house. And so when Drusilla got older, she started playing trumpet, and she got so good at playing trumpet that she decided by the time she was in high school, she decided she was going to be a jazz trumpet player, and she ended up going from Massachusetts to the University of Georgia to study under Roscoe Banks, a different Roscoe, to learn to be a jazz trumpet player. And I'll skip ahead and just say she is now a full-time touring jazz trumpet player. Yeah, she is. She's married to a fellow named Terry. Now, she went to the University of Georgia, Drusilla did. Terry went to Georgia Tech, so it's a little star-crossed. They live in an Airstream trailer, a 28-foot land yacht. It's a beautiful trailer. They tricked it out beautifully with bookshelves on the inside. And in the trailer, the trailer's pulled by a 1972 Chevy Suburban, but Terry tricked it out with a hydrogen accelerator, so it gets 60 miles per gallon. And they live on the road, and they have a little boy named Chaz. And we love Chaz, and I'll get to Chaz later. Anyway, Marguerite was very excited about, the idea, as I said, she loves things that measure time. And, across from Francine, when Marguerite realized she wasn't going to have any other children, I measured there, and then towards her bedroom, Chaz is measured there too. So that everybody's measured in the house. Marguerite, this particular day, walked into the bank. It's the same bank she's been going to since she was 18 years old. When she went off to college, her daddy, set up a banking account. Now that bank was called the Bank of Covington back in those days, and then it got caught up and gobbled up by a regional bank, and now it's been gobbled up once again by the BB&C. That stands for Big Banking Corporation. It's based in Charlotte, as all banks are supposed to be.
No!
Yeah. I know that hurts your feelings. Yeah. That was just for you, man. And she walked into the bank and she was hit with the smell of fresh paint. Well, that's fine. She saw some new furniture around the loan department, you know, where you wait there. It looks like you want to lounge around. That's fine. But then she's struck by the noise, and the noise is a television above the tellers' heads. And she came to find out later that television was supposed to be running little commercials about the loans and the advantage of saving money with the BB&C, but this particular day somebody had changed it to Judge Judy. That was annoying, it was loud, and she went over to the check writing table, or the depositing table, whatever, where you stand. Now, I taught her she doesn't have to go into the bank to deposit her check. I said, you know, you don't have to go to the bank, you can use your phone. You've got an iPhone, there's an app, I showed her where all the app is, and you can deposit your check with a phone. Aunt Marguerite, I do this from the road all the time. And she tried it, I said, did you deposit it with your phone? I saw her a couple of days after I taught her that. She goes, no, I don't want to get yelled at by my bank on the phone. I said, what? The phone doesn't yell at you. And she told me a story. When she was a sophomore in college, her study job was working at the library, and she got paid young people by paper checks. They're called checks. And you deposit them. You know what I'm talking about, right? Right. And you write checks. My son has a checking account. He's never written a check. He's had it 3 years. And she went to deposit and fill out the little form. She was in her dorm and she filled out the deposit slip. And then somebody said, hey, we're going to go out to eat and get a milkshake or something. So she said, okay. And she had her philosophy book. She was just, she threw the philosophy book on top of the check. And then she forgot to deposit the check. And then she wrote a check against the check, and it bounced. And she received the mail in the campus mailbox on paper with a stamp, and opened it up, and the check was there, and with red rubber stamp, all capital letters, boom, with a finger pointing at it, insufficient funds. And even then, capital letters, all capital letters meant yelling, just like a text or an email, right? She felt yelled at, she felt embarrassed, and it never happened to her again. So she was trying to deposit with her phone. She's got the Parkinson's, and she's zooming in on it, and then a little notice came up, hold phone steady. It was yelling at her just like the bank had done before. So now she walks into the bank, and she likes knowing everybody there. She had her paper out, and she knew the date. That wasn't the problem. She looked up where the perpetual calendar is supposed to be, to tell her what the date is. We all want to be, verification. We want that. And it was gone. And she said, Melody, the teller, where's the calendar? And she goes, corporate came in, they took it away. And what's that television doing there? It's here to enhance your banking experience. I don't want an experience, I want to come to the bank. Where's my calendar? Where's the perpetual calendar? Well, Donald, the bank manager, came out. Is there a problem, Dr. Marguerite? Yes, where's the perpetual calendar? Well, corporate turned it away. You can use your phone. I don't want to use my damn phone. Where's the perpetual calendar? It's called a perpetual calendar. I said, well, we had trouble trying to remember to change it. That is the ritual of coming to work. You open the little finger screws and you change the numbers. What do you do when you come to work? It was making her furious. And she used to be a surgical nurse. So she believed in the rituals of what you do when you show up for work. And on her desk, she has her timepieces. She's had them forever, man. She has a domed, she has her granddaddy's pocket watch. That watch is so old that calling it a pocket watch would have been redundant. Back before wristwatches, it was just a watch. She winds it every day. It's one of her rituals to remove the dome and to wind the watch. And then every other month or so, she checks the time to adjust it with her iPhone. And then there's her own perpetual calendar, y'all. Her own perpetual calendar. She loves this thing. It's a present from her papa. She knows it was a guilty father present because he had to come from the train station. It's on a little fake brass base, and there's a disc. It's about 3 inches wide, and these numbers that fall within the disc. there are pictures from Chicago, like a really colorful postcard, really, really blue sky. There's the Wrigley Building on one side with red letters, Chicago. And on the other side, when you flip it, it's the Chicago Water Tower. That long, you know that building? It's like a long, tall, skinny sand castle. She loves this thing. It's a chintzy little device, but an elegant mechanism, because you pull the numbers forward and they fall. The numbers of the correct date. Down here are little finger screws that have the months. Jan, Feb, March. March gets its whole word. April. And then it's sun, mun, Tues, wid, thurs. She loves this thing. You pull it forward and the numbers fall. 1, 2. Wrigley Building, Water Tower. Wrigley Building. When she was a little girl and she was bored at her desk, say she had had a really great weekend, had been with people she liked to be with, and she didn't want to do homework anymore using her fat pencil to learn to write. And she would push the calendar backwards, and it would flip backwards, and the numbers would decrease. And she would pretend that she was turning back time. And she would turn around, and there would be the water tower upside down. There would be the Wrigley Building upside down, because they were going back in time. And then she would sit, and then she would feel the awesome responsibility of turning back time, and maybe that wouldn't be good for everybody. So she would bring the date back to where it belonged. This is a little ritual, this little pretense that she kept all to herself. She opened her mail there at her desk after she had checked her watch and checked the date. And there it was, all the credentials that she needs to go to this conference in Chicago. She was going to go to a geriatric medical conference. She had called me. She said, I've arranged for my airplane to carry me to Chicago. Will you carry me to the airport? I said, where are you going? She said, a geriatric medical conference. I said, oh, that's wonderful. You'll get to meet doctors your own age. Oh, you think you're funny. And I did. I took her to the airport. And she got there, and she had a miserable time. It was horrible. She was listening to people lecture about the needs of older people in medicine. She was listening to people tell her how old people feel, how old people think, how old people take care of themselves, and all the younger doctors wanted selfies with her because she was the oldest doctor there. And she's never done this in her life, but the very last day of the conference, she decided she'd blow it off. They were staying at the Drake Hotel, and she opened up her Google Maps on her laptop, and she looked, and there she found it, the Chicago Water Tower. She'd driven by it, and she'd seen it, but she'd never gone to it. She's going to walk to the Chicago Water Tower. She filled up her water bottle. She put on her Rockports. And she decided to make her way there, and she started walking. And it's called the Windy City for a reason. Chi-Town, Windy City, city with the big shoulders. Second city. Chicago has too many nicknames. And it was a hot wind, but there was no humidity. She comes from the land of humidity. And she found herself kind of tired, and she sat on her bench, got her breath. She's starting to feel those 85 years, every one of them. But she got up and she started walking again. She's going to make it. And she realized she had left her water bottle. She didn't know where it was. She didn't know, and she looks at her benches up and down Michigan Avenue. She doesn't know where. She doesn't want to go back. It's a cheap little water bottle. That wasn't the problem, but now she's dehydrated. And now she can see the Chicago Water Tower, dwarfed by all these big, big, big buildings. She finally was just by sheer will made it across the street. And she came to the front of it, which isn't really the main entrance anymore. It's kind of like this bar. She sat down on the steps in front of the water tower. She looked down Michigan Avenue. She looked around these big buildings, and she had made it. And then she looked up. When she looked up, she lost her balance a little bit, and whoa. And her perspective, when she looked back, was the water tower upside down. She was turning back time. And then she realized she's not 8, she's 85. and she better bring her head back up. Have you ever done this? And then you can bring your head back up, all the blood just, and then you make bad decisions when you ain't got the blood in your head. And she stood up. And when she stood up, she went black, and she fell. She landed partway on her knee. And when she regained consciousness, she was surrounded by kind people. And then she heard a, and that was for her. And she was put in an ambulance. And she was carried to a hospital where the doctor asked her what had happened. And she tried to explain that she was trying to turn back time. And I was on her emergency contact list, and they called me, and she had to take an earlier flight back, and I had to go to the airport, and she had to be carted to the airplane. She had to be carried to her seat. She had to be escorted off the plane, and I had to meet her right there at Hartsfield, the world's busiest airport. And I put her in my car, and I said, "What happened?" She explained. I took her to her orthopedic surgeon. Her orthopedic surgeon looked at her knee. No, it was not broken, but she's going to have a walker. She didn't want to have a walker. She said, "I'm not going to have a walker, I want a cane." I said, "All right, so we'll go get you a cane." "No, I have a cane. I have my grandmother's cane." Oh, and I went to the attic and I found her grandmother's cane. It was old shellac and it was all kind of chipping away, and the little rubber tip was dry rotted. She said, "Give this to Liam, tell him to fix it." Liam's my son. My son is such a nerd that when he reconditions automobiles, which is his side job, he's a sophomore in college, he takes the wood paneling off. She knew that he did that. He could recondition wood. So I said, "Hey, fix this." He said, "Where do I get a rubber tip?" "I don't know, go on the internet, find it." And so my son was tasked with fixing up his cane. He sanded it all off. I went to his shop. Yes, what used to be my shop. I went to his shop, and he had painted it white.
Oh!
Yes. I said, "Dude, you can't paint this cane white." He goes, "No, check it out, watch this." And he pulls out some red Reflecto tape. And he was making it into a candy cane. It wasn't Christmas, y'all, it was summer. But you know, if you're gonna wear a cane, you at least want to accessorize with it. And I told her what he had done. I said, "I'm sorry." She goes, "Oh no, keep it that way." And then she went, Francine sent me some of this hippie hand lotion, so it's peppermint, so I'll be ready for the children. She was excited because at the end of the summer, she always made sure this happened. She insists that every birthday might be the last, so everyone needs to come see her. So all of the family vacations are about Marguerite, and that's what's happening. Now let me explain something to you. Mary Frances is Marguerite's very, very best friend in the world. These two widows don't remember not knowing each other. They have been friends since infancy at the nursery of the First Methodist Church. And so Mary Frances is as much family to Marguerite as anybody else. And Mary Frances raised her nephew. His name is Louis. He's not that smart. He's the orderly at their hospital. When they got a new portable x-ray machine, Louis thought it was a fluoroaxer. Couldn't get it to work, but he finally married Tiffany. It's one of those weddings that if you're invited to it, you should go. It's one of those weddings where the daughter of the bride and groom is the flower girl. The little girl's name is Purell. It's old-fashioned, but it's clean. And everybody was going to come, and Purell's birthday always lands, and there's always a birthday party for Purell. Well, Louis had an idea. He decided that what they needed to do for the kids was take them to Kitty Cosmic Bowling. Do you know what Cosmic Bowling is? A lot of bowling alleys in the Deep South have this. I know we're in the South, but the deeper South. And bowling alleys are desperate institutions in the South because they're like minor league baseball, just to get anybody in the place. So on Friday nights, it's nothing but black lights, ultraviolet lights, and they have these day-glow bowling balls, and there's loud, loud, loud music. It's either really loud disco, really loud funk, or really loud Pink Floyd. It's just in a horrendously loud place. And on the fifth Friday, it's Kitty Cosmic Bowling, and Louis saw that. It was landing right on Purell's birthday. So everybody was going to come. And Drusilla was coming with Terry and Chaz, Marguerite's great-grandson. And I've got to tell you, my Aunt Marguerite, you know she's been a widow a long time. She has a fellow. The name of Ike. And they reconnected at the Trappist Monastery in Conyers, and that's another story, but I'll say that Ike is younger. She babysat him when he was in the 6th grade, when she was in the 11th grade. So she's robbing that cradle. Ike is an organic farmer, and he loves the outdoors. So he's agreed to come. So everybody's going to come to Purell's birthday party at the bowling alley. Let's go over the characters again. There's Marguerite. There's Mary Frances. There's Ike, Marguerite's boyfriend. Mary Frances is her best friend. Louis, Mary Frances' nephew. Their little girl Purell. And then, of course, Tiffany. And then Drusilla and Francine. Everybody's going to come. And they all end up in the bowling alley, and they go up, and then the guy in charge said, all right, that's the kids' lane, and this is the grown-ups' lane. So they're already segregating the people by age, and that's not what a family event's about. Purell's perfectly cool with this. She knows the bowling alley pretty well. She goes with her dad every once in a while. And I don't know if you've been bowling with a child in the last 10 years or so, but they cover up the gutters with rails. Not only that, there's a little ramp to roll the ball. Purell was turning 7. Chaz is 8 years old. Now, I've got to tell you a little thing about Chaz. Chaz is taught by his father. He is road schooled because he lives in an airstream. And Chaz is one of those kids that he was reading at 4 before anybody knew it. He's just really precocious, amazing kid. He's a walking dictionary. And finally, Terry had his son tested because he's a house or a trailer husband. And it was found out that Chaz is on the spectrum. He's on the autism spectrum. And the way Terry's the kind of guy that he told his son, hey, guess what, Chaz? You're on the spectrum! Yeah! And then when Chaz went to camp this summer, they gave him white t-shirts, the way camp counselors do, and some t-shirt paint. And they said, hey kids, you can paint your shirts anything you want, just make sure your name's on it. And he puts a rainbow on the t-shirt. And Chaz loves purple. And he put a line to the purple, and he put himself as a stick figure, and wrote Chaz over it. And on the line, Chaz painted, you are here. On the spectrum. And that's the kind of kid he is. And Chaz thought it was hilarious, and he was right. So that's Chaz. They're all there. Purell is, she's good at bowling. She knows exactly where to put the ramp. She knows exactly which ball to use. And she rolls the ball. Bump. Bump. She rolled 300. Every time. Chaz isn't going to use that lane. He's a big boy. He's 8 years old. So it's zoom gutter, zoom gutter, zoom gutter. Meltdown is coming. The meltdown is coming. So Purell starts becoming miserable because she's succeeding every time. And if you do perfectly every time, no matter what, there's no fun to it. Chaz is miserable because he's losing. Marguerite's miserable because the whole place is what you don't want me to do anymore.
Thank you.
Imagine how Marguerite felt. She had no control, as you control me. She's miserable. Mary Frances is miserable because she used to bowl when she was younger, and now she's hankering a Carling Black Label and a Winston. And Ike is miserable because he's inside when he could be outside. And after the second 300 game by Purell and Chaz is kind of melting down, Ike, Marguerite's man, calls everybody over and he says, everyone, we've all suffered enough. We're going out to my farm. Now, Ike has, as I said, organic farm. When Christmas comes, or the holidays, whatever you want to call it, any kid, he sells trees, sells Christmas trees. But any kid who wants to come for their campfire, their big bonfire at night, everybody can come. Families come whether they're buying trees or not. And he has a soybean maze for children with claustrophobia. But this night, are you explaining the punchline to that? Or just, oh, wait. See, that's fun. So they go out, they get into suburban. Young people, these cars, they only have 2 shoulder straps. They can get 9 people in them in seats, but everybody else is expendable but mom and dad. No cup holders, but 9 ashtrays. And they get into suburban, and they go out to Ike's farm, and Ike knows that the children want to have a fire, so he makes a small fire. He always starts fires with sticks. He unwraps a piece of buckskin that he brain tanned himself, an Osage orange stick, and the kids just love to watch him do this with the Osage orange stick and a bow of Osage orange with poplar cordage that he made himself, and he loops it around that spindle, and he puts a piece of soapstone there, and he has a piece of pine here and his foot here, and he goes little smoke comes up, and he takes that teeny spark on that piece of pine and he pours it onto some red cedar, and he touches that to some fat lighter, and then he extinguishes the red cedar with his hand, and the kids are obliged to go, whoa. They gather around, they have a fire, and the kids roast marshmallows. Can we have s'mores? Ike said, no, that's too complicated tonight. Chaz is watching Ike. He's fascinated by this old, weird man. And Ike is an old, weird man. And Chaz is watching. And then Ike goes into the barn and he pulls out 8 chaise lounges, or as many as he needs, because there was an estate sale and somebody's closing their pool. Ike's whole home is nothing but furniture of the dead. And it's the clearest night in the tradition of our people, I know. And it's a clear night. He goes, welcome to the planetarium. And he clicks the chairs back and they're all looking at the stars. And Marguerite and Ike are right next to each other. And Chaz is right next to Ike. And Ike looks at Chaz and said, Chaz, what do you know about stars? Chaz says, well, it's nuclear fusion. There's hydrogen in the nuclei, and when that explodes, it turns into helium. Good for you. What else do you know about stars? That's all to know. That's it? Yeah. What about the magic of stars? I don't believe in magic. Magic's not real. I only believe in science. Oh, your mom plays music. That's magic. It's physics. Priscilla's heart is breaking. She's next to her grandmother. Well, I'm going to pick a star. You pick a star. Which one's your favorite? How can one star be better than another? Oh, it's whatever one you like is the best. It doesn't matter. That doesn't make sense. Well, let's see. Do you know the astrological things? Do you know about the constellations and stuff? No, that's not science. Learn it. See those 3 stars there? That's Orion's belt. And there's one down from Orion's belt that's got a little twinkle to it. I wonder why that is. Do you think? Well, it's the atmosphere. Okay, it's the atmosphere. That's my favorite. I'm going to talk to it. You ready? Okay. Oh, star! The fairest one in sight. We grant your loftiness the right to some obscurity of cloud. It would not do to say of night, since dark is what brings out your light. Some mystery becomes the proud, but to be wholly taciturn in your resolve is not allowed. Say something to us. We can learn by heart, and when alone, repeat. Say something. And it says, I burn. But with what degree of heat? Talk Fahrenheit, talk centigrade, use language we can comprehend. Tell us what elements you blend. It gives us very little aid, but does say something in the end. And steadfast as Keats' eremite, not even shrinking from its sphere. It asks a little of us here. It asks of us a certain height. So, when at times the mob is swayed to carry praise or blame too far, we may choose something like a star. to stay our minds on and be stayed. Chaz said, I think I get that. Good. Except the last line doesn't make sense. What are you talking about? The last line, it doesn't make sense. Well, how does it not make sense? Well, stayed is the past tense of stay. Like my mom will be doing a gig and she'll say, stay in the green room. And so I'll stay in the green room. And when she comes back, she'll say, did you stay in the green room? I'll say, I stayed in the green room. I'm not going to say I stayed in the green room. Well, it's a different kind of stayed. What do you mean? Well, this means to relax, to be calm, to be at peace. Chaz had never heard that, so he reached over to his mama. He said, OED! She's got the Oxford English Dictionary on her iPhone. Has it at the ready for her son whenever he wants to look up something. And Ike said, don't look it up. Well, we always look up a word when we don't understand what it means. Mama, OED? No, don't look it up. I'll give you 3 reasons not to look it up right now. First reason, you have me. Second reason, if you look at the phone, you won't be able to see the night anymore. You mean my rods will stop working and the cones will kick in? Yeah, something like that. And besides, the dictionary might be wrong. How can the dictionary be wrong? What's beautiful about this kid is he had the confidence to argue with the old man. And the old man had the wisdom to let the kid argue. And Ike said, the dictionary is a living document. Otherwise, Shakespeare would talk like Chaucer, and we'd talk like Shakespeare. You understand? I think so. Good. Now pick a star. I see one. It's not the biggest at all, but it's a little bit by itself. See the mist in the sky? Yeah, that's called the Milky Way. I like that one, right on the edge of that mist. And somehow at that moment, Chaz became stayed. And Chaz leaned into the old man. And Chaz said, I love you, great Ike. I love you, great Chaz.